There is a silent trap in modern life that goes completely unnoticed by most people. It disguises itself as productivity, commitment, ambition. We feel virtuous when we fall into it, as if we were doing something important. Charlie Munger, the billionaire who spent decades alongside Warren Buffett building one of the greatest fortunes in the world, identified this trap with a clarity that unsettles. He realized that the busiest people are rarely the most successful or the most fulfilled. In fact, they are often the most lost. The great irony of our time is that we have never had so many tools to do more in less time, and we have never been so incapable of stopping to think about what really matters. Munger used to say that he spent most of his time simply sitting, reading, and thinking. When people asked what his secret was, he responded with disconcerting honesty. We read a lot. Warren and I probably read more and think more than other business people. It wasn't about doing more meetings, answering more emails, or having a packed schedule. It was about having time to process information, connect ideas, and mainly having clarity about where he was going. The problem with being always busy is that it creates a powerful illusion of progress. You end the day exhausted, with the feeling that you did a lot. You answered 50 emails, participated in 5 meetings, finished 3 small projects, rushed to solve 10 urgent problems. Your mind is saturated, your body tired. This must mean you're moving forward, right? Munger would say not necessarily, because being busy and moving forward in the right direction are completely different things. Most of the time, excessive busyness is just a sophisticated form of procrastination, a way to avoid the difficult questions we really should be asking. When you're constantly reacting to the demands of the day, attending to other people's requests, putting out fires, you never have time to think strategically about your own life. You're so immersed in the operational that you completely lose sight of the strategic. It's like frantically rowing a boat without ever lifting your head to see if you're going in the right direction. You can be the best rower in the world, but if you're going to the wrong place, your skill is irrelevant. Munger understood that most people waste years, sometimes decades, rowing ferociously in the wrong direction simply because they never stop to check the course. The uncomfortable truth is that discovering what you really want from life requires something that has become increasingly rare: time to think. Not productive time, not time doing something, but genuinely idle time, empty time, time that seems like a waste according to modern standards. Munger had the habit of blocking entire hours of his day just to read and reflect. He wasn't producing anything in those moments. He wasn't generating direct revenue. He wasn't in important meetings. To an external observer, it could even seem like laziness. But it was exactly in those moments of apparent inactivity that the best decisions were made, that the most valuable connections were established, that clarity about direction emerged. Think about how many times you've already made important decisions in your life in a hurry, between one meeting and another, or late at night when you were exhausted. Choosing a career, accepting a job, starting a relationship, making a significant investment. All these decisions that completely shape the trajectory of your life were made with what level of reflection? If you're like most people, probably less than you should. Not because you don't care, but because you simply didn't have time. You were too busy living life to think about life. Munger deeply believed in the concept of opportunity cost. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. When you fill your schedule with mediocre commitments, you're saying no to the time needed to discover which commitments are really worthwhile. When you accept every task that appears, you're saying no to the mental space needed to identify which tasks really move the needle. Most people live in a perpetual state of reactivity, accepting any demand that arises, and then wonder why they can never advance in the things that really matter. The path to gaining direction in life, according to Munger's philosophy, begins with something that sounds contradictory. You need to do less, much less. Munger and Buffett were famous for saying no to practically everything. They didn't participate in conferences, rarely gave interviews, avoided most social events in the corporate world. Not because they were antisocial or arrogant, but because they understood that each yes dilutes your focus. They fiercely protected their time and attention because they knew they were their most valuable resources. But doing less doesn't mean being lazy or uncommitted. It means being extremely selective about where you invest your energy. Munger had a simple rule. If something isn't an enthusiastic yes, it's a no. He didn't sit on the fence. He didn't accept commitments out of politeness or social obligation. Either something was clearly aligned with his objectives and values, or it didn't deserve his time. This brutal clarity allowed him to concentrate his attention on a very small number of things that really mattered, and do those things exceptionally well. To begin gaining direction in life, you first need to create space to think. This literally means blocking time in your schedule to do nothing specific. It's not time to meditate, it's not time for exercise, it's not time for a productive hobby. It's time to simply sit and think. Let your mind wander. Ask the big questions. What do you really value? When you look at the last 5 years of your life, are you proud of the direction you took? If you could start over from scratch today, would you choose the same path? These questions are uncomfortable, and that's exactly why most people avoid them by staying busy. Munger had another habit that contributed enormously to his clarity. He read compulsively. Not just about business or investments, but about history, psychology, physics, biology, practically any field of human knowledge. He believed that the more mental models you had from different disciplines, the better you would be at thinking about complex problems. But the deepest benefit of wide reading is that it gives you perspective. When you read about how other people lived, about different cultures and historical periods, about varied philosophical ideas, you realize that there is no single right way to live. This frees you to make more conscious choices about how you want to live, instead of simply following the standard script that society offers. Society, after all, has a ready-made script for you. Go to school, get good grades, enter a good university, get a good job. Climb the corporate hierarchy, get married, buy a house, have children, work for 30 years, retire. It's a perfectly valid script, but it's just one among thousands of possible ones. The problem is that when you're always busy following the obvious steps of the script, you never stop to ask if it's the script you really want. You're so busy being successful according to someone else's definition that you never define what success means to you. Munger frequently told the story of a dinner he had with a group of high-level executives. All of them earned 7-figure salaries, had impressive titles, worked 100 hours a week, but when the conversation deepened, it became clear that most were deeply unhappy. They had sacrificed their marriages, their health, their hobbies, their time with their children, everything in the name of their career. And for what? To impress people they didn't even know? To accumulate more money than they would ever spend? They were at the top of the wrong mountain and only realized it when they got there. The antidote to this trap is to develop what Munger called elementary worldly wisdom. This means having clarity about some fundamental things. First, understanding that time is your scarcest resource. Money you can earn back, reputation you can rebuild, but lost time is lost forever. Second, recognizing that accumulating things or status rarely brings lasting happiness. What really matters are deep relationships, doing work that you consider meaningful, and having autonomy over how you spend your days. Third, accepting that the fear of future regret is a better guide than the pursuit of present comfort. This last point deserves special attention. Munger was obsessed with avoiding regret. He said that at the end of life, people rarely regret the risks they took that didn't work out. They regret the risks they didn't take, the conversations they didn't have, the dreams they abandoned because they were too busy to pursue them. When you're constantly busy, you have the perfect excuse not to pursue the things that really matter. "I would do that, but I'm too busy." It's a socially acceptable excuse, but deep down, it's often just fear in disguise. So, how do you really gain direction in life? It starts with a brutal audit of how you currently spend your time. Munger recommended that people track every hour of their week for an entire month. Not what you think you do, but what you really do. Most people are shocked when they do this. They discover that they spend hours in meetings that add no value at all, hours on social media, hours in activities that bring neither pleasure nor progress. This awareness is the first step. You can't change what you can't see. The next step is to identify your real priorities, not the ones you say you have, but the ones your actions demonstrate. If you say family is important but work 70 hours a week and never see your children, family is not your real priority. If you say health is important but don't exercise and eat poorly, health is not your real priority. Your true priorities are revealed by where you allocate your time and energy, not by what you say. Munger was relentless with this honesty. He had no patience for people who deceived themselves about their own motivations and values. Once you have clarity about your true priorities, you need to make difficult choices. This means ruthlessly cutting things that don't serve these priorities. It means saying no to opportunities that look good on paper, but would divert you from your path. It means disappointing some people, losing some short-term opportunities, risking appearing less impressive to external observers. Munger said, "You can't have everything, and trying to have everything guarantees you won't have anything that really matters." Extreme focus is the only way to achieve extraordinary results. Another crucial thing is to create what Munger called a clear circle of competence. You need to know what you're good at, what you enjoy, where you can create real value. And equally important, you need to know what's outside your circle of competence and learn to say, "I don't know," or "this isn't for me." Most people waste years trying to be good at things that aren't their natural strengths, or pursuing goals that seem impressive but don't align with who they really are. This happens because they never stop long enough to do an honest self-assessment. Munger also emphasized the importance of learning from the mistakes of others. You don't need to make all the mistakes personally to learn the lessons. Observe the people around you. Who are genuinely happy and fulfilled? What do they do differently? Who are miserable despite external success? What choices led them there? Most of life's traps are predictable. People have fallen into them millions of times before. If you study history, biographies, psychology, you can learn these lessons secondhand and avoid wasting years of your life. The reality is that gaining direction in life is not a one-time event. It's not something you discover in a moment of insight and then follow forever. It's a continuous process of recalibration. You need to regularly create space to ask, am I still going in the right direction? Do my goals from 3 years ago still make sense today? Am I becoming the person I want to be? Munger did these reviews constantly. He changed from lawyer to investor relatively late in life because he realized he wasn't on the right path. He had enough humility to admit when he was wrong and enough courage to change direction. One of the most liberating things you can do is stop comparing yourself to other people. When you're always busy trying to keep up with others, achieve the same milestones, have the same status symbols, you never have time to discover what you really want. Munger didn't care what other billionaires did. He didn't buy a private jet until very late in life, even though he could have bought one decades earlier. He didn't live in an extravagant mansion. He didn't try to impress anyone. This freed enormous amounts of mental energy that other people waste on social comparison. There's also an element of accepting uncertainty. You will never have absolute certainty if you're making the right choices. Munger said, you don't need certainty, you just need reasonable probabilities. If you have 70% certainty that something is aligned with your values and objectives, that's enough to act. Waiting for total certainty is a form of procrastination. The busiest people often use the lack of certainty as an excuse to continue doing what they're already doing, even when it's clearly unsatisfactory. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, you need to understand that life is not about maximizing any single metric. It's not about earning more money or having more prestige or accumulating more achievements. It's about creating a life you don't want to escape from. Munger lived according to this principle. He created a life where he woke up every day excited to read, think, and talk with interesting people about interesting ideas. He wasn't constantly dreaming about vacations or retirement because his daily life was already rewarding. How many people can say the same? Constant busyness is a modern epidemic, and like any epidemic, it spreads easily. When everyone around you is busy, you feel pressure to be busy too. Being quiet, having free time, appearing relaxed, all of this can awaken judgment. But Munger reminds us that the judgment of people who haven't stopped to think about their own lives shouldn't worry you. If you know where you're going and why, the opinion of lost spectators is irrelevant. Charlie Munger's legacy is not just the fortune he built or the companies he helped grow. It's the living demonstration that true success comes from clarity of thought, not from frantic activity. It comes from knowing exactly what you want and eliminating everything that doesn't contribute to it. It comes from having the courage to appear lazy or unambitious in the eyes of people who confuse movement with progress. And it comes from reserving sacred time to simply think, something that our culture undervalues, but that is absolutely essential for a life well lived. If you're always busy but feel lost, the answer is not to get busier. It's to stop everything and finally ask the questions you've been avoiding.